of long hair now, and there's wisps at the side. When they want to be seen, that's where they hide. It's happening a lot. I see a figure where there's none. But when I turn to look, of course they're gone. Except with my long locks down, with the wisps on either side. When they want to be seen, that's where they hide. Hello. That little one is called Peripheral Vision. And I don't know if it's a result of this lockdown or of having long hair or of being in this house. More and more and more I'm turning to look to see someone I thought was there isn't there, wasn't there, might have been there, but they've gone too quick before I could see. Perhaps I shouldn't look, perhaps I just watch them from the corner, maybe talk to them from there. That, after all, is advice often given when talking to fairies. How are you doing? I hope you're well. Thank you for listening and watching, or just listen if you want. Sometimes people say it's much easier to listen than not bother watching. It's not much to watch, me, my long locks. I'm reading some poems of my own and poems from 3 friends today. I'll explain why in a moment. Poems of my own. A mixed bag. Some of them have tied to others, some not. And almost a random selection, some of them. Like this one. It's nothing to do with the previous one. It talks of a wanderer passing through a village. Someone with no fixed abode. How they're looked at by the villagers, how they look on the village themselves. It's called the Mountain Stream. The perennial wanderer looks for a name, and finding no new joy, settles for old sorrow. Sat beside a dizzy mountain stream, rushing headlong through its known furrow. A wild tumbling burden of dream out of high gushes falls into tomorrow. Elsewhere, the toiler in the field calls a morning. The shy girl smiles from her window through flowers. The holy warden signs against their sojourning a prayer to send them on from higher powers. The seely fool, though, good with his gurning, seems to keep them entertained for hours. So the valley village copes with the ranger, not knowing what to call them, nor if they've been before. There's a housewife or two, swears they're no stranger, flicks a skirt to coax them to the door. But the warden of the church knows a danger, rings the bell, recites the ancient curse of yore. With the western mountains nibbling the setting sun, with a kerchief stuffed with cheese and bread, the perennial wanderer seems to be gone, still without a name in their head. The villagers in the valley resting, everyone with their new joys and sorrows took to bed. Scuffed steps still under midnight moon, watching as each home surrenders up its flame, comforting their journey with a gentle tune, remembered from a long abandoned home. Mindful of a rushing dream that passes too soon. the perennial wanderer in search of a name. Mountain stream. Here's another short one. Again, they're seemingly random in the selection, these ones. It's called Pen. Describes a little bit the feeling of being a writer, of having the inspiration, or even not a writer, just knowing the right words to say at the right time, or not. Pen. Sometimes I'm picked up, down, put away, like the one who held me didn't know what to say. Sometimes, like a dancer, I'm moved around, flown, delicate steps or strong thrusts, like the one who held me knows and has always known. Sometimes I'm taken, dragged around, shaken, think we're gonna dance, dropped at last. This one's no good, no ink. Pen. Hope you're okay out there. I can't always tell who's watching or even if anybody is watching. I think Suz is there. Yay. And if you fancy, you're always welcome to send me a message, let me know, or a comment. Always pleased to hear from you. Occasional. While I realise it would be inconvenient at times, the slight hold-up as we waited for the driver, the averting our eyes in the checkout queue, sporadic quiets in the pub or a wait for drinks, the occasional burning of dinner, the numerous interruptions in class, the polite wait at question time, handkerchiefs changing hands like love notes, with perhaps a tag team ready to step in while there's a moment. I wonder how it would be if we cried when we needed the necessary tears of the turning of a day, or a little bit panicky of missing them now and then, of actually it's okay, I've got you, of, well, you know. What would that be like without the rush to mend or fix or comfort or soothe? Just gentle acceptance of that's how you're feeling now. It's okay. And one more before your first guest. It is my very, very newest one. And it's called Your Picture, Seen Inadvertently. Every time I see it, 1,000 cats stare with me. Oh, how intense they are. They only dissipate when I look away. 100 dogs bound at me. Can we please? Oh, I'm ready to run too, but it's a ball yet to be thrown. Just one horse nudging. Look again. Ride it like you're in love as well and free. Just this one massive horse prompting me. every time I see it. Your picture. Hair like monkeys. Eyes like Ireland. All my mighty menagerie puts to flight, a flock on brink of intercontinental migration, marking time in a murmuration. Oh, send another picture, marked, come to me. Now, if you're a regular, you'll know that in lieu of having a special guest, I've been reading poems by my friends that are in print and published, usually from a selection of books that they have written. As far as I know, my free guests don't have books written, but they do have poems that appear in this journal, the Granthi, which is labelled as an experimental literary platform. It comes out of the Radharaman Society and the Bengali community. I was lucky enough to be invited to the Granthi International Poetry Festival in 2019, I think. Was it 2018? 18, 19, I'm not sure. It's been a while. 19 it was. And as a result, some of my poems were put in there. And also these three friends. And I feel particularly lucky because my first friend reading from this, his name is Jah-Mir Early. And, apart from seeing this gorgeous man, his particular skill and talent and gift and miracle is his ability to improvise poetry, to let the words flow out of him unprompted, such an easy flow. It's quite incredible to watch. And of course, because of that, it means so few of his actual words are captured in print and put onto the page. There are some videos, I think, of him online. You'll be able to find, see if I can get some details out to you. But there is one of his in this journal, and I don't know whether it was something that he put down for the page or whether it was transcribed from an improvised piece that he did. So, send him my love. I'm hoping that he won't mind me reading it. A piece of his by Jah-Mir Early called Was I a River or the Boat? Wait a minute. Was I the river or the boat? Some poet once wrote somewhere where they wanted to make their boat perfect, that will float down this river that is unfair and claim us all, and I just don't know. It seems these days people are worried about their feelings, and I feel like a specific set of ancestral DNA put together and a lens showing out to the world, or maybe into the world. I'm confused. What was I? The river or the boat? I don't know, but I flow and I move, and I can tell you one thing, I may crawl on my knees, but eventually the silt that I take from you will woe down every boulder. What was I, the river or the boat? Was I the ocean? I am not sure which direction I am going, but if I relax and breathe, my friends tell me everything's going to be all right. How many minutes do we have left in this heartbeat? I can feel the blood running through my veins, thin and thready, alive. There's an estuary somewhere in my soul, and I think we are just breaking free. Some reason the beavers went somewhere else to cut down someone else's tree, to block someone else's way with mud. The new challenge is not jumping from stone to stone like we did once, but really between planes. And I don't know what water can do that, so we might have to become light. And I'm not sure light can move fast enough through time, so we might have to become life. You know, that anvil that everyone is beaten out on. We might have to become that. We might have to become so much of a single reflection of a single thread. And what was I? I can't remember. Was I the river or the boat? Was I the single molecule of water? There was one. This time we were in Paris. We were so drunk. We were boys in love with sex, not women, but we were in love with sex and alcohol, which meant we spent most of our time drinking, talking about women, and we were thinking about philosophy, and we said, the world is like this. You are one single molecule of water trying to figure out if you are moving on your own or if the water is moving you. And I can't figure out if I was the water or the boat. I got to go to church that's not a church sometimes, so I'm going to practice that voice that isn't good enough. I think we have begun the beginning, and it's cool. Every beginning is a new one, and I'm killing things that have not been born yet to die inside of me, because that was another aspect, and I cannot let it continue. I can see his future, and it is nothing but my rear view. So I might as well move forward, cry out loud and breathe fear like it was smoke, and chuckle, because what? I gon' die? I crawled too long and bled too deep to know that I ain't gonna end up dead. You might break something, but then you have to be forced to stand next to it by eternity. We are alive now, and we are moving. This is the beginning. Was I the river or the boat by Jah-Mir Early. In Grumpy, the Grumpy. I'm going to read two more from there for the two other authors. And I thought what I would do also is to give you one of my own that was brought to mind by reading their piece. So this one, my response to Jah-Mir's poem, called Sailor. No matter how many times you go down, you're alive until you drown. I kicked my feet, still expecting to meet with something solid, a rock, a reef, a whale's hump, or shark's teeth. The coiled scale back of a serpent of the sea, nothing under me, nothing but water, bearing my weight for as long as I can get air in my lungs. My choice to be lifted or to climb into the boat again, gifted by some shipwright I never knew. My choice to take a place amongst the crew. Sailor. The second author I want to read from there, here, is a lovely man who I think organised and hosted the international festival, Ahmed Kaysher, who I know is a poet and a writer and a film and literary critic, and he's director of SAUDA, the Society of Poetry and Indian Music. This is one of his, called Dynamics. I can sense your obvious inhabitation in my blood and breath. I can feel the way you catalyze the whole metabolism in my each molecule. Now I wonder. The tree remember the tree that was stemmed from a sudden vacuum, whirling around the flowing stream of the river wharf. Look, it becomes so luminous today, so full of leaves. Do I even care if I am captivated in a dark prehistoric cave now? As long as I know, almost for sure, an unshakable light, an unperishable smell of your music, Sindhu Bhairavi, will perforate through the darkness of the black hole. That poem about the raga in classical music, particular form and composition of playing, put me in mind of this poem of my own. It's called Harper in the Morn. Whence that harp string, passing through me in stillest morn, with a call to all suffering and truth, through the worn, just waking heaviness of flesh, waving through my arm, untried today, through my unstretched ribs, fresh across my belly, sliding through my unclutched gut, around my thigh, and filling with vibration the soft pop head raised willing, but enfolded with the rest, the slack shoulders, the passive eyes, the punched and heavy breast, this pass of sound embracive throws a kink across the world, that cell by cell disjoints what came before. The fallen hurled to the floor, and a new possibility anoints, plucked again. The looming sound approaches, touches, ripples, rips, encroaches, throws around sensation over skin, nipples, neck, delicate, between the toes, across the lungs, to all the soft places still unseen, deep into the passage flung, and touches all like a kiss, planted as a growing dawn upon slow neglected snow. Bliss awakening from ignorance to know that you, I, we are not alone. Whence that harp string? Where the harp? Who the harper? Thrown into what truth and suffering? Sound that passes through and touches every part. Speak these words if they be true, and sound any heartbreak. Perhaps then they carry just a touch upon that same reverberating string. Marry just enough meaning to the name. Echoes on the morn, a stroke of a finger on the sharp and hollow drawings born from the plucking of that genuine harp. And my third friend found in the Granthi is the editor and publisher of it, Shamim Shahan, with a poem of his called Wait. Rust piles up in the dustbin. because I couldn't stab myself. I stay naked beside the street because I couldn't kill myself yet. These insults, hatred, the treatment as if I am invisible in this world has made me absolutely sick. I am waiting for the final call. I am waiting for the final peace. I am awaiting for someone to take me away from here. Some of the deep sadness and despair in that brought to mind another poem of mine, which starts in a similar place of despondency. The title is gebed, which is the old English Anglo-Saxon word for a prayer. Goddess, will you hold me? I am so heaped with sorrow. This heavy flame, coldly clinging, burning all to black, engenders no light, tenders no hope for tomorrow. Lady, will you? I have overmuch of what I lack, and cannot bear the emptiness of the eastern skies at day's end, the lost day departing at my back. Here so raked with sorrow that I cannot raise my eyes to the sting of heaven, will you stay, your folded brow adding warmth to the echoes of my hard, wanting cries? As life tends the tearing of the blossom from the bough, of the flower from the stem, the water from the bay, of the baby from the womb, the suckling from the sow, Goddess, will you mend? I cannot breathe to say, gently say the words, this is what I need. A reprieve from the dead, as another day of never was is waved away, another never-ending night lays its road ahead. As the orphan seed finds its home within the furrow, my Goddess, in your hold may I find this sorrow shed. She finds my strength with a look I had not remembered. Mine is the will, mine is the way, in a world waiting. Because she trusts, gentle the hand, steady the grip, lifts like a wing. This is my prayer, answered before it is spoken. I remember it now. Stood, standing, striding, ground has not touched my feet since she took me in flight. Sets me down. Here you should be, here you must be. Take the step, take the stride. Because she trusts, I find my strength worthy that on this chord she finds my strength. Perhaps an answer to the prayer. How are you doing? 2, I think, yes, I'd like to, is that 2? No, 3. 3 I'd like to read you more. One of which has never been heard before. To be honest, I've always looked at it wondering, what do I do with this? I don't know. Do I read it? Do I write it? Do I perform it? It's kind of set in a simpler, less troublesome time, when as somebody out of work but with a small amount of savings, I'll be watching those savings bit by bit drip away, living in fear of the day that they would run out for good. And the working title for this is called "The Poet Considers the Need for a Job." Am I letting the money run out like time? And when it's gone, do I expect to die with the last penny spent before I debt? Money for bills, for rent, gas for the cash for the gas, electricity, a set store, like a set of breaths I have to breathe. Fatalism sucks. I would earn more with a job. Dosh, that is. Would it feel, were I in a boat, letting water in, though still afloat? For now, safer to lie in the hull, quiet, looking at the sky with everything I need. For now, everything at peace. Over, kneeling with inadequate cup to lift the water up and dump it outside, that the water jump into cup, out of cup, into cup, out of cup, till the water levels up. Still the boat's going down, though it will take that much longer to finally drown. And what's flung away is the watching the sky, the stars, the wave, the writing down the rhythms and the memories. They for the bottle, you for the grave. Bilge is always, always there, it seems. Bailing to buy more time, to not go down so soon. Here's a thing, I'm not a sailor, the boat is but a metaphor, and money gone, I will not drown or die, quite. I'll survive to a crew. Death is such a good excuse for the living. I never had a note from the dead, can't come into work today, I've an arrow in my head, I've a cobble in my bones, I'm lying undiscovered in my bed. But to get a day off from life, sometimes it calls it in. Life, that is lifetime, was privatised many years ago. Sell your time to buy time. Give up time to choose to time to be used, time to be bruised, time to be rinsed away, like panners in a river extracting all that gold. Tribes no longer hunting food together, lands no longer worked and tilled by all for all. Who's the one who says this field is mine, mine for gold? I'm wearing 4 o'clock in the morning on my eyes like a shadow. After 3 hours sleep, and I'm falling into deep blackness at the edges, in the middle, at the all-encompassing, and I'm watching me in horror how I live my life. It's not the punches I give myself that hurt. Not at first. Not at the time. The judder and the crump just sends me reeling into more lumps. It's always after, when I realise I was hit, I was the hitter. I was bit. I was the bitter, bitter fury turned against myself. I was the one considered by myself to be fitter to survive than I. I with the teeth becomes I with the tears. I with the reason to bruise. I the burnt, burning burner. I with 5 o'clock eyes and an 8 o'clock smile. Sleep is such a good excuse for the weary. Just an hour more, a half, quarter, just a minute more. I'll close my eyes in the morning. I'll just watch the sky, the stars, the waves leaping over the sides. I'll just doze. The boat's just sinking again, and I so need to dream. I'm letting the time run out of my leaky boat. I'm bailing time from the ocean. I'm timing bail, boating leaks across the Mersey. I'm sinking all my money into time. I'm buying. This time feels mine. Money's leaking out of my pocket of time. Every life is precious. Every life must be saved. So I'm filling out the application form, post wanted, position available, vacancy to be filled, experience necessary, qualification, life. Well, we'll offer an internship, give you 0 hours, pay you with exposure. Sure, there isn't as much as you're worth, and actually we're just wondering what to do with you all since we can't kill you off. Still, there's no fire without hiring. Work is not done now. So last year. The medium is social. We do not cut wood, build boats, we make bubbles here. The work is bailing. Bilge is always there. And we have people coming over in boats if they'd only stay below and bail, so we can sail and watch the sky and stars, the waves, and put our bottle by and to hold the memories and rhythms we write down to keep us from the grave. Because despair is only hope not working hard enough. Dismay is someone not knowing their place. And being lazy too. We have the way for people. Come along, a crew, wealth debt, we don't mind. There's no work to do, but bail us out. Ghosts are not for giving up, but to be saved, though with 0 interest. Rave against the shirkers. I punch myself. Rave against the 4 o'clock deserters. Rave, wave, save, grave, behave, knave. The poet considers the need for a job. There's a few mentions of boats and waves in this one. With Jah-Mir's Am I the Boat or Am I the River? The short one before the last. It's called In Open Water. There's obviously reminiscences here in to Stevie Smith's poem. There's someone out there amongst the waves. Sometimes the waves broke over her, but when she could regain the surface, she opened her mouth, and what came out gave her buoyancy. The extra breath, perhaps, and more, that lifting hand of the sea. Sometimes she could barely hear the melody, as legs cramped and shoulders ached, and water lodged crabby in her ear, but a shell, she caught the ocean's rhapsody, and bound it to the words she found inside, bringing this intermittent as the tide. I am not drowning. I am singing. Hey. Oh, it seems like there's a bunch of you watching. How wonderful. And comments. David, Bernie, thank you. So this is the last for today. There'll be more the day after tomorrow. And the video will be on the timeline afterwards if you want to watch it back. And there's links to previous ones if you fancy seeing some others. A silly conceit of mine. Keats famously, well, on his headstone wrote, I am one whose words were written on the water. I've misquoted that a little bit, but I quite jokingly once wrote that I am a poet whose words are written on the timeline. As people will know that I share so much on the medias. So this was one written, I don't know if it was intended to be read because it's so much about having been written, but it's called Timeline. And it's, imagine it as a poem found on that stream of tweets and posts and everything else. I hope you're not adverse to my writing here. It could be worse. I could be banging at your door and shouting. But here it's easy to ignore and put away. Tell yourself you'll read it on another day, and then it's hardly anything of note. I'm not reminding you that the boat is sinking, or hinting that the house might be ablaze, or even sermonizing on the swiftness of the days, or some such mongering of doom. And as it happens, if I were in the room with you, I'd likely be very quiet. Except perhaps to say, you're looking well. Are you on a diet? Are you working out? Have you read this poem? Do you know what it's about? I tire very swiftly, you see, of any but the very gentlest of company. And my fingers seem much more robust than my speaking voice. I think I trust them to articulate my thought far more than the random jumble that never ought to issue from my tongue. And then when I was young, I often wore a silence like a hood, an innocence of sound. I would wander, adding nothing to the noise made by other girls and boys, and if I did, then what seemed so plain to me would be met by a bafflement and looks of, is he stupid? It's true. Did you picture me an eloquent child? Floating through school days, verses wild and exuberant on my lips and pen, holding the attention of the people, listening, eyes glistening, lower lips pouting, finally shouting, hurrah! As my kind friends today sometimes do. I am so grateful. If you only knew how much your appreciation means to one whose self-esteem's as fragile as that previous rhyme, spending half its time thinking it's the greatest thing, then sodding off and leaving me struggling to find any worth at all in the fingertips, falling on my pen again, and once again, believing in the silence, in the words, but not that the speaker will be heard in any way that means you are known. You are recognized, you are, what is shown is what is seen. Strange as you have been, you are still the same as us. as well as something we can never name, written here as clear as the nose upon my own face. I can't see it. I just know its place. Feeling tired now, sleepy, of even this gentlest company. Still, it could be worse. I might be crashed on your bed, a snoring Goldilocks. Instead, I've slipped these words onto a timeline to wash away downstream. And that's fine.